Today, dear viewers, we welcome you to episode 77 of the Strip Poker Night at the Inventory podcast. I'm your host, spnanon. But first, is the man watching? Are you worried about your data being stolen? Or that hackers will hold it hostage, threatening to leak that you masturbate to anime girls? What if certain content is region locked and you can't play with the gay characters in your country? Perhaps you're concerned that SPNatI itself tracks and sells your browsing history.
We don't.
But unlike other internet porn games, we're committed to your privacy. And that's why this episode is brought to you by NordVPN. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Nord.
Hello, I'm Nord, at least according to the Facebook survey you took. I'm back again for another rousing round of discussion about some of our newest additions to the game.
But wait, there's more. We still have leftover food from last time. More potato pancakes. It's Latke, developer of Levitain from Fire Emblem Heroes, Mikan from Danganronpa, and a hot new character, the cutest little demon girl you've ever seen in your goddamn life, but we'll talk about that later. Introduce yourself.
I'm back again. I'm Latke, or TDS, whichever you prefer, but usually Latke. Happy to discuss characters, especially because talking about mine this time. Always fun.
Let's see. Well, we only have three items on the agenda today. One main roster character and two testing roster characters. You would think that would make us get it in under an hour, but you never can tell. Let's jump right in to the main roster edition we have for today. Last time we talked about Toph, who was from Avatar, who was a character who had something of a troubled development history. It took her a while to make it to main. And we moved from the Earth Nation to the Duelist Kingdom with Taya Gardner / Anzu Mazuki from Yu-Gi-Oh!, the original Yu-Gi-Oh!, the shonen girl archetype, the sidekick, token girl. This is a character by Ace, whose first effort was Chie from Persona 4, who died on testing. She never quite made it across the finish line. But he did not give up hope. He received a lot of feedback on Chie, and at first it seemed like Taya had a lot of the same issues of like kind of blandness and not really being sure where to take her. And he got quite some extensive feedback and critique from various sources on Discord and such. I think she got some pretty tough sponsorships too. And it seemed like he wasn't going to stick with it, but she did. She has in fact made it. She's now on the main roster. Latke, what did you think of Taya Gardner?
So, I think to start, I think her from what I've been seeing, she's had a pretty troubled development history, and I think she's come a long way, both her and the dev Ace. Especially her poses, from what I've seen, her poses are much. I think they're a lot better than they used to be. Overall, there's nothing too offensive about her, I'd say, but there's still a lot of things I think which could be changed to improve her. I still think she still has a lot of stock lines or observations. I felt oh, so that's where you're taking off, or on to the next round. And I'm guilty of that too sometimes, but I thought it was very noticeable. Something which really stood out to me sometimes is that she has a lot of lines where she's saying something confident or upbeat, but her pose looks embarrassed or worried. It became at first I noticed in one of her stripping lines, but it became a bit of a habit after that. What isn't observations is pretty good. I felt I did get a good handle on her. Once again, I'm not familiar with her source, but I did felt like I got a good handle on her personality. Although speaking of being familiar with her source, I feel in terms of references to it, I felt a lot of it was tongue-in-cheek jokes about it or references, not too much straight info, which is it's good or bad depending on your perspective. I feel it should be a bit more just info, I guess. I don't know, some sources are harder to talk about than others. she has a good amount of lines. Oh, like I guess there were like aside from there weren't too many repeating ones. Like even during like Forfeit, which I saw, like maybe that was just my game, but that's something you run into a lot. I didn't notice it with her. So I feel like more could be done with it. Like I think she could be more into her Forfeit. Yeah, but that's what I got for her. There's a lot of other critiques.
Nord?
I think you touched upon a lot of my general points as well, that like she's not overly bad and it's fine for her to be on the main roster. I just hope that Ace doesn't see this as a stopping point for her, because there are some areas that could do with some improvement. I'm fairly familiar with the Yu-Gi-Oh source because I watched the original a lot when I was young.
If only Joe were still hosting the podcast and he could just rant about Yu-Gi-Oh for 4 hours.
I tapped out with 5Ds. That, as far as I'm concerned, the game has not changed at all since then. I don't know any of this pendulum BS. But for Taya herself, she is like, she's the girl. You know, she's like an entire character archetype onto herself, because a lot of shows are like derivative of Yu-Gi-Oh and have the girl character that sort of all originates back with her. The same, almost I would even argue, like in the same way that like Yukiko from JoJo Part 4 was like the definition of yandere, that defined the yandere archetype with her origin. Taya is that for the like supporting girl in a card game anime. And I feel like this is probably just me, but I feel like there's a lot of like expectation of like, how well can you do Taya? She has a bit, because like in the source, she has a bit of bite to her. She's not just a like constant damsel in distress. She is a damsel in distress some of the times, but she's like, she doesn't take it lying down, sort of thing. There's a lot of leftover lines in SPNatI Taya that are indicative of how like her writing has completely changed directory from when she first launched on testing. There was 2 lines back to back that gave the complete different impression, and that was actually when I was testing with her and Takatoshi. When Takatoshi lost entirely, Taya seemed excited, but then as soon as Takatoshi actually went to start his forfeit, Taya suddenly had the complete opposite attitude of, I don't want anything to do with this, I'm not looking. So there's some leftover lines like that would need to be ironed out. In general, I've probably been both one of the biggest supporters and biggest critics of what Ace has been doing with Taya, because I've wanted Taya to be as good as she can be. Right now, I think she's overall fine, but there's still room to improve, and I hope Ace continues to improve, because I know they can do it. Because they've been improving slowly but surely. What do you think, SPNanon?
You kind of have to improve slowly but surely. I'm not sure there's any other way to do it. I guess some devs have improved rapidly. Like I think Kyo's creator, Mango, he improved pretty quickly. But like, yeah, that was kind of a concerning issue for a while with Ace. He always seemed to like be too impulsive with the process. Like people critiqued Taya's inconsistent like sexuality, like you were talking about, and then he said, "Oh, okay, I'll fix that." And then he pushed out like a 15-line update, and then claimed to have fixed it like in a day.
Yeah,
it's like that's SPNatI characters are just too big. Like you can't fix that kind of thing in a day. It's just not possible.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of newer devs fall into that trap of thinking, fix means just add more, and then that's it done. But some things, like the character's entire attitude towards the game, do require can require a systemic overhaul of like all of the character's generics, which is no easy task to like require of someone. But in general, development isn't done in a day. You have time to sit and wait and think and just do other things first, and then come back with a fresher mind to like crack at it and overhaul a lot of the character. Ace is getting better at being less impatient, but yeah.
It's like, take a week and don't write anything and just think really hard about how you want to approach this.
Yeah.
Writing ultimately all comes from your mindset. You gotta have the right mindset, the lines will come. And it's gonna be a jumbled mess if you don't. I do think she's a perfectly serviceable character. That's how I would describe her last time. Like, I don't think every character, and that's another thing. Like some people get like really offended when like a character isn't like the next big thing almost.
Yeah.
Doesn't adhere to like the absolute maximum standard of quality that we see from new projects or just projects in general. And that can make a newcomer that can make development pretty intimidating for newcomers. I feel like there's room for just an okay character in the game, just as practice or a stepping stone. Not everyone's going to learn as fast. Like, it's okay. Like, in general, I'm just not all that offended by a character not being perfect. Because, like, you know, fans of the character, some will love them perfectly fine just for being in the game in general. They're not that discerning. Or maybe they are really offended. That inspires them to contribute or to help improve the character further. You don't know.
Yeah. I've tried to not nitpick too much of Taya to death. I've just tried to like help Ace along to identify like, okay, here's sort of like the major overarching things that you can gradually tackle to make her better. She's in a like you said, she's in a perfectly fine state right now, perfectly fine for main roster. And you can't really expect someone's, you know, technically second, but this is their first main roster character. You can't expect them to be, you know, this completely perfect, infallible project that, you know, someone's just, you know, done in their free time. So I want to see how Ace develops from here, and Taya's, she's good, you know. Good with room for improvement.
With rare exception, I would say any content is almost certainly better than no content.
Yeah.
If even just to talk about, you know, keeps the lights on, podcast operation after all. As far as Yu-Gi-Oh goes, I still don't really know anything about it. I'm the equivalent of like a Gen 1er with Yu-Gi-Oh, but even that's being generous. All I know is like Blue Eyes White Dragon is the strongest card ever and beats everything except, of course, Work Zodia.
How quickly that gets outmatched.
And Seto Kaiba is just like the coolest dude ever. Do either of you have any final thoughts on Taya?
I mean, I covered pretty much everything.
Resounding meh from Latke.
There was like a thinking noise. Just looking at what I wrote down, I pretty much covered it all.
Nord?
I think you were something like I touched on it with your initial discussion of her is like a lot of her hand quality dialogue in particular is very mechanical and wooden and doesn't really have her talk about much of anything. So it's Seinfeldian in nature. So more hand quality lines where she's just, you know, shooting the shit or trying to be funny or something. Just something other than, these cards aren't very agreeable, are they? A pity.
God, what flyover state did that phrase come from? Shooting the shit. Big piles of manure. Taking a rifle to him. I have some final thoughts on Taya. Why the fuck doesn't her hair flip? I looked at references. Okay, it should flip. Look at this pose. It should clearly be flipping. How does it not bother you? It bothers me. Bothers me immensely. Just scrolling through her poses, it bothers me. I'm not happy about it, and people are going to hear about it.
You are right. Looking at
Vodka.
screenshots, it should flip. It really should.
Look at reference art and stuff. Well, Latke, it's time for people to hear about your big project and the reason you have been on these last 2 episodes. Not that we're not happy to have you, but you are the treasured guest for today because you have brought a brand new character to testing. Shamiko, which is, I believe, just a nickname. Her real name is Yuko Yoshida, no relation to Saki Yoshida. They appear to have lived very different lives.
Very different source material.
Shamiko is a demon girl, but Saki has been beset by demons. But I will let you take the floor and introduce all about Shamiko, who she is. My little demon girl can't possibly be this cute. What's the deal with Shamiko? And why did you make her?
She's a demon girl. She comes from this sheltered, poor background, like monetarily, and then one day, she gets horns and a tail. They literally pop out of her body, and she gets informed of this family history and gets told she has to go, take out the town's local, magical girl to restore her family's fallen glory. Just a bit of context there, because I realized probably should have explained a little bit more about her source, if that's okay. It's the original is this 4-panel manga that skirts the line between affectionate parody and genuine take on the on magical girl and slice of life. The status quo tends to shift a lot, which is what I enjoy about it. But overall, it's more like a fluffy type series. Overall, though, yeah, you'll notice this if you play her. She's a bit of a dumbass. She tends to be impulsive, rushing into situations with a lot of enthusiasm but not much planning, which usually ends poorly for her. A lot of the series humor early on is based around this. It moves on from it, but it's definitely noticeable. I tried to put this first and foremost in there in SPNatI. She's very she tends to she has bad AI. She tends to make kind of spacey observations of the game, wondering why they even call it poker. Wouldn't folding be bad for the cards? Stuff like that. A lack of knowledge. And she's definitely prone to panic. At the same time, there's a lot of she's very she's extroverted. She's very compassionate, supportive. I tried to do that, and she's very comfortable with failure. She has no problem trying something for fear of that. That's just a quick overview on her personality source.
So why did you make her, or why this character choice? What did you want to get across with her, and where do you want to take her in the future?
I want to make her because, for one, her source, Machikado Mazuko, or the Demon Girl Next Door, is one of my favorite. When I first watched it, I absolutely fell in love with it. It's just one of my favorite. I just wanted to, I guess, show it off, I guess. And Shamiko was a large reason of that. I also just thought, I guess I'm purely she's just I thought she'd be really fun to write. When I thought of it, I got a lot of ideas. I remember the first thinking of I could do use her outfit for it's called her transformation. And when I started that I got a lot of other ideas that I think I could make work in the game. So I just thought it'd be fun. Honestly, I'm still thinking of where to take her. I want and I'm focusing on like other her interactions. I think Shamiko as a character works best when she's interacting with others. Like early on, I like this is for most characters, but I struggled with like generics a lot because she's in her story. She's very rarely alone or not bouncing off someone. So it's hard. It was like I struggled with other characters, but it was like extra hard with this character because it rarely feels like she's in a vacuum. So I feel like I want to focus on increasing her interactions just to like show like the best of her, I guess.
It is always tricky when it's a character type that you need to bounce off of someone to get their like full routine across almost.
You gotta have like this generic opponent in your mind, and that's what generics are. They're generic targets.
That's a good way of thinking about them.
They're just like the average way you would treat somebody. And I think you do that pretty well for what it's worth.
Thank you.
I'll talk more in a bit, but Nord, go ahead.
I've seen her interactions so far with Aqua Konosuba, and it's pretty funny because Aqua just hates anything demonic. Shamiko's reaction is very like funny, cute for that. I'm interested to see where that goes. In general, like looking into her source before this cast, I've seen about 10 minutes of footage from the show, and now I'm like planning to watch it this weekend. It does seem very appealing. It's SPNatI, she's pretty good already. Do you plan to go over her art at any point, either before sponsorship or as part of it? Because there's some body detailing you could add, but I know you probably just wanted to get her onto testing first, which is fine.
Like definitely, I want to do another once over on her art before I submit her before to testing. Like she has some, like even moving, like putting art aside for a second, she has some posing things I need to fix. Like I got like a lot of her poses weren't centered when she got put on the test, and some of them have been fixed, but there's still some. Like I played a game. I included her in one of my test games, and I noticed a couple more I needed to get. And back to it, I definitely want to include like pubic lines for body detailing. I'm thinking of custom, like more custom work, like custom breasts. And also, I think I got some feedback that her head should be a bit smaller. It's a bit really size that I want to adjust that. So there's definitely some artwork I just want to more. I think it's just easier for me, so I just want to get her line to a certain point, line count to a certain point, or targeted line count to a certain point before I switch my focus.
It's the centering thing is mostly because of her tail. It's an easy mistake to make, but no matter how wide the pose is, it needs to be centered on the character's nose, or they won't be centered properly.
I do have a tip for you there, which is if you adjust the cropping of the pose, I believe it's a right mouse button clicking on the outside edge of the crop window. Yeah,
both sides.
It mirrors it on both sides, which makes it really easy to center the image.
That does sound helpful because I've the way I've been doing it takes.
You didn't know that?
No, I haven't doing that. I've just been I think dragging on the opposite side of wherever her tail is, and then moving it back till it's centered.
Oh yeah, if you just get the center line on the nose, just right click the rest of the way, and you'll be good until the whole image is in there. Has she been aged up at all?
It's not something like I've tried to keep time references to time general, I guess. Like in her source, she is 16. So there's not like too much aging work. I have a couple of lines like explaining why she's still wearing a school uniform, and aside from that, I try to keep references to time a bit more general. I guess so it's like I haven't too much work into aging, like specific references to aging up, like saying she's in like college or something like that, or mentioning like a few years.
Well, I was just curious because, I don't know the source, and she seems very small and cute and moe. But
I was kind of worried at that. Though.
I mean, breaking news: 16-year-old Japanese girl is small.
She's not even 5 feet tall, is she? She's like 4 foot
she's
something. I'm sure
canonically like 4'9". She should be. She seems a bit taller. She seems a bit taller than she should because I think had to mention because of her head. So maybe that's helped. So maybe it'll look a bit shorter if I adjust that.
Just sort of eyeballing the model, I think head a few ticks smaller and the legs a few ticks taller to make up for it would do wonders.
Right.
Yeah, like it seems like her boobs are a little bit bigger than the source. That with the longer legs does make her look a little bit older, even if the head's pretty big. As far as my notes go, the first thing I wrote for Shamiko is fucking adorable.
Priority.
She may just be the cutest character on the entire roster. I really got to take my hat off for it. Even just like this no thoughts, head empty, calm pose that she has. It's just the cutest thing. I couldn't get enough of her, and the way she contorts her face and really sells whatever emotion she's going, whatever chuny phase she's going through, where she has totally false confidence, is always a joy. I really enjoyed it. She stutters a lot, and she's like always unsure of what to say. I think you could put a little more flavor on the dialogue with some of the punctuation, like italics and dashes and hyphens and things.
That's a good point.
But very nice overall.
I feel like I overuse stuttering coming from Mekon because she stutters a lot. I feel like I just like also like not like sort of muscle memory from that. Like there's a couple of lines where I've been writing and I like included stutter and I was like, I don't know if she'd do that there, and I'd like have to like walk it back.
You do such a solid work, man. I mean, it's clear your posing experience is very clearly on display here, and I just love taking a look at her, especially like whatever dumb thing she's saying, or like trying to assert herself about how cool and demonic she is, and just totally floundering. was very fun to watch. I think she might have been bone dry in the forfeit. That's something to do with any art reworks alongside body detailing.
Can be adjusted.
I would describe her as like awkwardly confident. She's doing her best to be confident, despite how awkward she feels, and it's endearing. This like sweet moe girl trying her hardest to like be what her idea of a demon is. She just doesn't have it in her. It's very funny. I don't know if this obviously wasn't your intention, but it did save my ass. I spoke in episode 73 at length about the underwear gate, the Maya nude undersuit underwear controversy, where she was going to get Twitter canceled for putting underwear on halfway through the game. Like a week later, it dips Shamiko with her crisis management seemingly to draw all controversy away from her. And nobody really complained about Maya's underwear after that. I mean, they kind of did, but they weren't as militant about it, because here comes Shamiko, who, once she's down to her bra and panties, the next time she loses, instead of immediately taking them off, she transforms into her magical girl form. It's only around for one layer, but she like literally, it's like even Maya on it goes from suit to underwear. So she's showing more skin overall. Shamiko literally puts on fucking stockings and like boots or whatever, and like a skirt and a belt and like a brassiere and Juliet sleeves and a collar and a bow tie. And it's a whole thing. It broke everybody's generic lines, but it is pretty funny to see her transform like that.
We're starting to catch up on that.
So thanks for taking the heat off.
Welcome, even if it was unintentional. But
when nobody got me, I know that Latke got me. Any final thoughts, Nord, or Latke, anything else you want to say about Shamiko before we move on?
I think she's definitely in need of a couple more forfeit lines, especially when like she was first out or last out. She repeated herself a fair bit. How do I put this? In general, she's quite good. Just I think having more lines where she can elaborate more about herself are always good. Like tell us about, I guess, things she does because she thinks that's how a demon should act. That would be interesting potential. Overall, she is just really cute.
She is. She's so cute. We better move on before I spend another 3 minutes ranting about how cute she is. But anything else you'd like to say, Latke?
I think I about covered it. I'm glad she's getting some good, so well received for the most part, and hope I can continue delivering with her and make some adjustments that need to be adjusted.
You're a bit of a sleeper, Dev. You know, you're not one of the most vocal out there, but you put out good stuff.
Thanks.
If you want to have characters to banter with, just let me know. I've got a dozen or so. You know. Yeah. What's the common thread between the three characters you've made?
Honestly, I'm not sure if there is one. They're just like characters I particularly enjoy from media I particularly enjoy.
Well, two of them are nervous wrecks.
And funnily enough, with Levitine, I didn't have too much of a connection with her before I started writing her. I just, like, this is off topic, but like Horse Killer approached me with the offer to do the model and posing if I did the writing. I was like, sure. And I researched her and realized I really liked her.
I think it's like the common thread is like girls doing their best to live up to a role that's been foisted upon them.
That seems quite fitting.
Nord,
yeah.
What are the sights to see in Northern Ireland? Am I allowed to say that? Do you want people knowing that, or should I cut that out?
Oh God, they're gonna cancel me because they know I'm Northern Irish. Oh God. Oh wait, no, it's fine. They'll forget I exist in 5 minutes. You could go see the Giant's Causeway, but you could also go to Scotland to see that.
What's great along the Northern Irish countryside that we could take a camping trip up to?
A couple of hills, as long as it's not a foggy day. That's about it, really. We don't have any mountains or nothing.
Well, I can see why the United Kingdom wanted you so bad. Latke, I don't really know where you live. Maybe you're not keen to tell us.
Canada.
But if you, you're in Canada?
Ontario specifically.
Ontario. Okay, I did not know you were Canadian.
75% another.
What are the sights to see there?
We have a really big tower in Toronto. There's Ottawa. That's always good. A lot of lakes. This is the general.
I've heard.
Overview. Oh, some cool mountains too. I think we got those.
Where does SPNanon live? The world may never know. I don't know. I've moved a bunch in the past 5 years, so you're gonna have to keep up with me. But anyway, our final entry for today, another testing roster character. The second effort by Tweetsy12, creator of Hatsune Miku, whose epilogue we talked about last time. It is Nadeshiko Kagamihara from Yuru Camp. And
Leave it.
This girl wants to see all those sights and more, is what I would say, but she's mostly just obsessed with camping. I'm not sure if she wants to see those. She mainly seems interested in Mount Fuji, which I don't think is really that far away from where she lives. Regardless, Yuru Camp, as I'm told, is a slice of life anime about camping. And Nadeshiko likes to camp. And you will certainly learn that if you play with her. But yeah, Latke, what did you think of Nadeshiko?
First off the bat, I'm going to start with something positive. She's adorable. I love her art. I love how important it is. I love her poses. They're like great, exaggerated. like anime style pose. Like I can't think of the more specific, but that's great. Also, I mentioned this, but I love how like supportive she is. Also, in my testing games, like she got right off the bat with camping and camping tips, which is good, I guess. Lets you know what you're in for. So it's good or bad depending on how much you like camping. I don't mind the camping for the most part, but I do mind sometimes when it just feels like she's just talking about camping, or when it becomes like a text wall. Like when I see like a text wall with like small text about camping, my eyes start to glaze over a bit. Like I liked when there were lines about camping were like a means to an end, so to speak. Like in the game, she had a line about being a good romantic destination. I thought that was like it fit the tone of the game, so to speak. In a similar way, sometimes the way she discusses herself or her source, it feels like a bit odd. Like it feels like she, like what I wrote down is the way it feels like she was responding to an interview question that wasn't asked.
Yeah.
Completely different note. I loved her for it, which I feel like she's gotten a lot of praise on, but it's deserved. Like despite her like hewness or ownness, whatever, it didn't feel like her approach to forfeit or the general like vaccines. It didn't feel. Sorry, I stuttered there. Like it didn't feel jarring, I guess. I had her lose first, so it was like I didn't see too many major reveals, so to speak. But that's there you go. And I thought her forfeit dialogue, like Tweezy's been working on that a little bit. I feel like it hit the good balance in terms of like wordiness, like over. There was less of the wordiness during the forfeits. What I'm trying to say, it felt more natural. That's kind of what I got with her.
Nord?
I agree with.
Oh God, he's dead.
No, I'm
Lives.
fortunately.
He's gone on a camping trip.
I yet live. Shout outs to Richard for this incredible work with the art. Just getting the texture of her shirt right. All this extra effort for like poses that like you've posted there, where she's like at an angle and holding her hand out, and it looks so like natural, so good. All the extra details throughout, like her strip sequence and even her like animated finishing pose is really good. And then, you know, just a fun little thing when she's done and completely out of the game as she starts cooking a pot of noodles. It's pretty funny. I was able to identify the reason why she says so many camping tips one round after the other. And it's something pretty simple to fix. She says a marker, this like camping tips start. And then once that marker is active, she has like 20 lines of dialogue in one case that are, you know, the different camping tips that have a priority of 1. 1 is higher than 0. Most of her generic dialogue is priority 0. So what this means is, once she starts talking about camping tips, she will talk about them until she has exhausted everything she has to say on the matter, which will take 20 rounds. So that's why she says so much.
I didn't get the impression that she would ever be exhausted.
I really agree with what you said, Latke, that her forfeit didn't feel out of character, and it also didn't feel like taking her character in the wrong direction of making her like too shy and like introverted about this sort of thing. Maybe she's a little too turned on at times, but that's better than not being turned on enough, in my opinion. So in general, I think that's pretty well done. My main critique is something that I've kind of been nagging Tweetsy about every couple of days, which is find things to talk about that aren't camping and that aren't cooking while camping. given the nature of her source material, it may be a little hard to sort of think of things unless you really like look outside the box. Because, it's a show about cute girls going camping. Of course they're going to talk about camping a lot. You have enough dialogue about camping already. So he should look at other topics to try and explore with Nadeshiko. I believe it is actually pronounced... I believe it is pronounced Nadeshiko, because I know tweets he keeps correcting people in VC about it.
Maybe it's... I guess the vowels kind of get dropped a little bit more than maybe I'm doing.
Yeah.
I've been pronouncing it with 4 syllables, like Nadeshiko, which I guess is wrong.
I think that about sums up my thoughts on it. I looked up her character bio from her source, and she's apparently like quite competent and like looks after some of the other characters, but at the same time is a little bit airheaded and irresponsible for her own safety. Like, she's the kind of character that will just sleep anywhere. Doesn't care about wolves or anything at night. Does Japan have wild wolves?
I was going to say, are there wolves in Japan? If only we had a clip of them saying her name. Nadeshiko. Like, I don't think I'm saying it wrong. I think I'm just saying it really slow. And, native speaker would say it a bit faster and not pronounce the vowels so stiffly.
They used to have wolves, apparently, but they have since gone extinct.
Damn. It do be like that. I know they have deer in Japan.
A lot of them.
It's true. Riveting camping commentary. If only we had a Nadeshiko here to tell us all about the Japanese countryside, so we could fill in this dead air. Well, I'll give my thoughts. Yeah. So, very wordy, very rambly. Some of those camping tips, like when you change it to small text and it still goes behind her head, maybe think about cutting down a little bit. First of all, you could take all the ideas in that line and split it up into like 3 different lines. For one thing, that's more variety. You have 3 different lines now, and 2, I'll actually read it and comprehend what's saying instead of just being like, oh God, she just keeps going on and on about camping. This girl. I wish I loved something as much as she loves camping. Oh wait, I have Maya. But anyway, I think in general, it's something that a lot of other characters sometimes have issues with, which is like just cut down on the phrases. Sometimes like a shorter and snappier line is always better, and it sticks with you more. And people always they add in like these extra explanatory phrases at the beginning or the end of a line that really aren't necessary. And like the meaning is either implied or it's just better off implied, like it's hotter or it's just more clever that way than explaining it outright. It's like the mark of good dialogue is you have to imply things a little bit. Don't literally spell out everything about what you're thinking. And if you have another idea, just put it somewhere else. But yeah, she's so hyper-focused on camping. Apparently part of that is just a priority and coding issue. But in general, yeah, she's always talking about that or food. And it's like, I get that she camps a lot, but she's not camping. At least on most backgrounds. So SPNatI's really your chance to show us, okay, who else is she? People are never just caricatures. It's like, well, Maya is a dread pilot, but I don't constantly have her talk about piloting a gunship and fucking killing people because she's not doing that. There are more important things. It can inform her perspective, but she is not literally camping. There are the camping tips especially, but just in general, there are so many rants she goes on where it's just like, damn, that's crazy, but I don't remember asking.
In general, it's been hard to get good targeted lines with Nadeshiko rolling as well because of that hyperfixation on camping. It's really hard to think of like a good back and forth about camping that isn't something super niche or specific, and like once you've done that, what do you do next? It's still about camping.
I've been workshopping some dialogue with him, but it's I've been trying to move away from what I consider bad practice, which is like just having characters establish things that are pretty clear in their description and generic lines already. Like, she doesn't really need to talk about camping and her targets because she already does that in her generic lines. Like, do something different.
That's an approach I've been taking lately as well, is assume the characters have read the other characters' bios, as funny as that sounds. Because like then you don't have to be like, oh, yeah, you don't have to waste like a set of interaction. Be like, oh, what do you do? Oh, I do this for a living. Oh, that's really cool. I'm going to ask you some follow-up questions next round. Ah, very good then. You don't have to do that.
Yeah, it's like, oh, it's like having her explain she's from another planet. Like, how about you just be like, oh, you're from another planet? What's that like? Open with that.
Yeah.
That's just, don't waste time.
I have an interesting perspective on this, which is related to how I've approached writing Pokemon characters. The odd thing is, like, what has made writing Pokemon characters relatively easy for me is realizing they just so happen to live in the Pokemon world. Like, obviously, everything's hyper-fixated on the Pokemon in the games, because that's what the gameplay is. But what does a person who lives in the Pokemon world think when they wake up for the morning? When they get dressed, have their coffee and breakfast? What are they thinking about? What are their worries? Probably the same sort of worries we have, just with Pokemon instead of, you know, whatever else that the Pokemon are replacing from the real world. That, like, really helps inform how does this character go about their daily life. So with Nadeshiko, it's like, yeah, camping's her hobby, but she's still, you know, a young woman. What does she think about day to day? What are her worries, her fears, her, like, ultimate goals and desires? Does she want to go on, like, some mass hike somewhere? Does she want to have some sort of, like, crowning achievement? Like, does she want to get to the very top of Mount Fuji? And even outside of that, like, what are her plans for the future and all? Like, there's a lot you can do by just putting yourself in her perspective.
Does she want to join the Mile High Club on the ground?
There you go.
Yeah. I don't know if Mount Fuji is a mile high, but
she has a couple of lines about that, about, like, doing it out in the wilderness. They're pretty good lines. But then she goes back into, the most effective way to set up a tent when you're doing that.
Winter camping and summer camping are very different.
Wait.
Here's all the equipment.
I'm pretty sure someone said, like, why didn't you go for the obvious pitch a tent joke? I don't know if he's added it or not.
Here, let me do a dramatic reading. I've encountered a number of amateur campers who think winter camping is no different from summer camping. However, both summer and winter camping have their own unique challenges, which requires different kinds of gear, such as bug spray or sunscreen for summer, or warm clothes for winter. That's just a brochure.
Thank you, Google summary.
Wikipedia.
It's like,
damn, Wikipedia time out in the wilderness.
You could easily split that up into two lines, where one's like, when you're camping in the summer, I always have bug spray because, you know, bugs are yucky and I don't want them anywhere near when I'm sleeping. Yeah. And then say, like,
can't sleep.
And then have a follow-up was like, happy to camp in winter because I can be nice and cozy and there's no bugs to annoy me, or something. There you go. You've split one wordy line up into two less wordy and more characterized lines.
I also think you can, like, save, like, her, info camping tips to, like, edit towards in filtered lines, some to relevant tags. Sometimes you can, like, it's something similar. It's a bit different, but with Mikan, there are times where, like, certain tags or certain, like, appearances, like piercings, for example, or tattoos, she'll, like, info dump about safe medical precautions or safety tips. So it's hard to do something similar with camping, but even with, like, for example, you could do like there's like a recipe for boots. You can like how with someone's taking off boots, you can do a line about like, I don't know, this is like general, but like the best type of boots for outdoor camping or something like that.
Also, please write some lines that are not about camping.
That is true.
What else does she do? Does she do anything else? If not, then please make something up. Yeah, my final point here is that, so one of the things I took issue with her in general, just like character writing in general, I know it's because she's like from a slice of life anime. I don't know if they ever get attacked by a bear or if bears are in Japan. But she's always happy. Like, she is always happy. She takes everything in stride the whole game. I don't think I saw her like perturbed or with a negative emotion like once. I understand there might not be a whole lot of conflict, but I don't know. I think in order to really understand someone, you need to understand what bothers them, and like you need to see it and how they react to something that they're like not okay with or sort of uncomfortable with, whether they want to like work past it or whatever else. It's like everybody's nice when there's nothing to be mean about, you know? Yeah, like you need that. You need to explore the character in that way. What does she not like? What gets on her nerves? Especially like the sex talk. It was like she took that she did not say like a horny word like until halfway through the game. It was like all camping coast to coast. And then suddenly it's just like, I really want to see the shape of your penis. It's like, whoa. She knows what a penis is? Like, that's not in the camping manual. And she just like totally took it in stride, and she was like so happy and horny, and it's like she talked like she just like fucks guys all the time, and it's like, really? This girl who does nothing but go camping and talks like really airheaded and kind of moey and like kind of goofy and fun? Yeah. I'd say like a lot of her flirty lines, it's like almost there, but some of the writing choices, like the diction, the word choice, it just feels like kind of awkward or clinical, or it uses some kind of metaphor that almost is sexy, but it just ends up being like weird. She has a line where it's like, I may not be the tightest girl player. It's like, first of all, why would you open with that? You could just not say that. And then it's like, but I could still like wrap around your penis. First of all, stop saying penis. Okay, only Maya should say penis because she doesn't know what a penis is.
What does Maya call it?
Tube.
Or
like
what
tube
does Jura call it?
And rod. Okay, sometimes
Wait,
they say penis, but Jura also says like rod and tube and thing, organ. But like, Nadeshiko is like, I'll wrap your penis up like a sleeping bag.
Yeah.
That's not sexy. How about we can share a sleeping bag? How about we wrap up ourselves together in a sleeping bag?
She does have lines like that.
Sleeping bags are loose and baggy and weird. I don't want to stick my dick in a sleeping bag. Just stuff like that. It's like half baked. It's like it's almost there, but it's like. I described Shamiko as awkwardly confident. Nadeshiko is like confidently awkward. She says awkward things and is extremely confident about them, as if she said like the hottest thing in the world. It's kind of endearing, but it's also weird. Like she has lines where she's just like casually propositioning sex with like a total stranger. Like, hey, I'll invite you back to my campsite and we'll see what happens. It's like, damn. I just thought she liked to camp. I didn't know she liked to fuck so much. I mean, it did not bother her one bit. Which I just felt was surprising for a Japanese schoolgirl. I guess they get up to crazy stuff out in the woods.
Yeah, sometimes it goes over the top. I find it kind of endearing that, in a weird way, that like she's trying so hard and it just doesn't really land. So maybe like dial it back a little bit.
But I don't think that's intentional is the problem.
I know it's not.
Because Tweetsy's always asking for writing advice. With
He
Shamiko,
is.
like she's being awkward, like an awkward dumbass, but you know it's on purpose. Her masturbation poses were a little stiff. She had a very nice animated finishing pose, but I don't like animated finishing poses very much, or at least I don't like how popular they've become, and everybody just asks for them all the time now, and it just undoes one of my biggest accomplishments, which was making the game stop auto advancing past the coming poses. And now it's like, well, you can miss it all over again because it's animated now. Congratulations.
I still think they're cool.
They are cool, but I don't know. I think at least stop on like an active, action-y kind of frame. Anyway, don't talk so much. Shorten up your lines. Don't talk about camping. Talk about anything else, please. Art's really good, but the dialogue just is. It gives a very weird texture right now. It's not quite hitting for me. Doesn't hit the spot the way ramen does. God, look at her go with that ramen. I've been staring at this gift for like 20 minutes. Any final thoughts on Nadeshiko, Vodka, or Nord?
I'll say, keep working at it, Tweetsy. She's steadily improving. And definitely better done than Miku was around the same stage in development. And it's good that you're asking for advice and input constantly. Just maybe try to internalize the general advice that you get when you receive feedback. Like, the sort of thing where you can't really look at it on a line-by-line basis. Consider, like, changing up how you approach adding new lines in general. And you can rewind and listen to the Pokemon comparison I made earlier.
You can rewind and listen to the Pokemon theme song.
That too. Latke?
Yeah, no, you pretty much covered it. I was just going to say that you're on the right path, I think, or you're not. You're just like, with the advice you got, I think you're on the right path. Just keep working on it. Remember, shorter lines.
Yeah, you're on the trail, so to speak. Maybe you've wandered a bit off the trail, but you've got the map. The map is all your friends here at SPNatI.
And I'll just bring this up again. Shout outs again to Rich R for this amazing art. I don't think anything will have to be changed for sponsorship or anything, or if there is, it'll be incredibly nitpicky. Shout out to all the artists who do amazing work for this game.
So sometimes I'm concerned that like we're not getting enough newcomers, but oftentimes new projects are like collaborative, and like relative newcomers are just like mostly working on art. There are fewer writers who come in.
We just need people who are willing to give newcomers a chance with maybe not like the main character that you've always wanted someone to write for you, but like, you know, a lesser character, a side character of sorts. That's what got me into development. Is I wanted to make Petra. I was gifted a model of Leonie to use instead, and then made it this far.
You did. You've risen all the way to the heights of the SPNatI Podcast co-host.
What an honor!
Indeed. And now it's time to end that honor for another month or so, because it's time to end unless you had anything else to add.
Just be open to helping newcomers with art in particular, and always look to improve your writing. Listen to feedback. Heed our words.
That's true. We've had some combative newcomers.
Please understand, it's nothing against you. It's just that we've seen these mistakes happen before. We know how this goes.
Well, a lot of people are committed to trying to save newcomers from themselves. You know, it's kind of like what I was saying about Taya. Like, I mean, it's okay for a character to just not be amazing, or for a project to fail if they really won't hear it, and like they're so committed to doing it. Sometimes that happens, and you know, experience is the best teacher. And I understand, you know, being so excited to jump in and make your character, and then people shoot down the idea. Remember what it says on the writing guide. You are not clever, you are not original, and your ideas are bad. And on that bombshell, it's time to end.
On that positive note.
Latke, Nord, anything, any final thoughts on episode 77 and anything you would like to plug before I pull the plug? No?
Oh.
Well, fuck you then. Did I say 76 in that intro?
It's such a great
Just-
I
huge.
can't remember.
Just say 77 out loud, and then if you're wrong, make Solitaire edit it.
He's just going to
Easy
make me look
fix.
stupid.
Such a great number. You just have to
77.
say it twice. Oh, I spoke over you.
I'll check it later. Let's see. Well, after that hot intro,